welcome everybody. Um, Thank you so much for coming to Splice Beta. This is our fourth day in a row, and it's been a really fun week. We've had lots of chats with lots of amazing people. I love this community. Um, just a quick introduction to who we actually are, in case there's anybody here who haven't heard us go on about this before. I'm Rashad, and I co-founded Splice with Alan, and Shirley is our Splice beta producer, and Shirley's sitting right there. Are we switching? Shirley, you're going to have to say hi to everyone.
Shirley wanted to be silhouetted.
Shirley is silhouetted.
But she's the one who makes it all happen.
That's exactly right. Alan, tell us about Splice.
So Splice, the mission of Splice, and again, apologies to everyone who's heard this like a million times now. But very quickly, what we do is we celebrate the work that media startups are doing across the Asia Pacific, because we believe that this is an important way for the transformation of the industry that we all love. And Beta is that festival that does exactly that. This is the platform in which we are raising the profiles of media startups across this region to bring together the ecosystem that supports them, everyone from funders to media entrepreneurs to NGOs that love and care about what media companies are doing in this space.
We're very proud of the fact that we've got the gender balance right. We've worked really, really hard at this. Where we don't like manners, we're excited that we have a 50-50 gender balance across 40 plus sessions. And I think we're going to hit more than 46 speakers. We have 5 stacks.
God help us.
I know, 5 stacks by stacks. Shirley's going to stick that in the chat box very soon, because I always forget. But the stacks are really, all Mondays are business and strategy. All Tuesdays are audience. No, all Tuesdays are products. Wednesdays are audience and users. Thursdays are management and operations, and Fridays are
media
careers.
Media careers. We have been practicing, I assure you. And of course, this is like the 6th, 7th time we're doing this now.
That's right. But if you want information that's a little more trustworthy than us, you go to splicebeta.com/program, and you've got everything there, including tuk-tuks hiding in the wings. I just want to quickly tell you folks that at 7 p.m. today at Singapore time, we have Mariam Chaudhry of the very exciting startup in Pakistan called The Current. She's going to talk about her media career. She was at the opening session, if some of you were there, and she gave us a little preview of what of her journey.
And of course, none of this stuff would be possible if it wasn't for the help of Facebook Journalism Project, Conrad Adenauer Stiftung. Google deserves a special call out for Fridays, because they are sponsoring all Fridays, because they really do care about media careers and where the industry is headed. So they have they're sponsoring every single Friday of this month. So big thank you to our friends at Google. Thank you also to our friends at Illuminate, MDIF, AFP, Folio, IMS, and our technical partners, Click to View and Fuma Podcast.
I'm going to take you through some very quick ground rules. I know you guys are sick of this, but I'll be really quick. When you tweet, and please tweet, use the Splice Beta hashtag. Headphones and microphones are always going to ensure good sound, which means that we can use you in the videos. We want to hear from you. If you have a quiet room with good light, even better. Put your comments, questions for the speakers, questions for each other, introduce yourselves, links, email addresses, whatever you like in the chat box. If you want links from the chat box, the best way to do this seriously is select all, copy, paste into a document of your choice. Best thing to do is put yourself on mute when you're not speaking, especially because this is going to be recorded and it's available on our YouTube channel, our Facebook page. There was one time one person phone bombed us quite unsuccessfully. This is a thing. If it happens, we're all going to be grown-ups. We're going to bump them and we're going to move on like the adults we are. Let's be kind to each other. Lastly, let's be generous and let's be really tolerant. We're all figuring this out in a kind of weird time. But now it's time for the main act.
So we are really excited by this because, there's a lot of conversations going around about obviously where is the future of media, but also more importantly, what are these jobs that come with that, right? So all Fridays of this month, we're spending that time to talk about what some of these new roles are and what young people entering the space need to think about. And I think what's really especially important is that there's a lot of conversations around where memberships are going and why memberships are a core component of many media companies that are out there. So if you are someone who's starting out in media or in a mid-career transition, it's really important to see where some of these jobs are headed, right? And today we wanted to focus on memberships because we think that these jobs are super critical. And the interesting thing is that even 2 years ago, we would not be having this conversation around membership jobs. And so we thought it would be really cool to hear from Lynn and Deborah. Lynn runs membership at Malaysia Kini, and Deborah runs membership at New Narrative. Both have very different experiences in this space. Both are also building out, their job scopes and a deeper understanding of what it's like to run memberships as part of your journalism career. So let's start off with Lynn. Lynn, can you take us through your presentation?
Lynn, before you start, I really wanted to, I'm so excited that you and Deborah are here. I'm such a big fan of both of you. And, we've all of us, we've been following you and your careers. I'm curious, like seriously, 10, 20 years ago, what would your job title be? Like circulation manager or something?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Circulation manager, yeah. But I think it's complex now because it's like nothing is straightforward anymore, and you're expected to required to have more than one skill and understand the dynamics of the media from a holistic point of view, not just from the business slant or just the editorial slant. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. Hey, listen. Take us through your slides.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. We can see it.
We just, hit the present.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's all right.
No problem. Yeah, it's a little tricky, this one, Lynn.
All right.
There we go. Nice.
Okay, so I'll share the Malaysia Kini story, how we went from subscription to membership, and on this journey you will see hopefully what a membership person does. So our journey began in 1999 when Stephen and Prem decided that Malaysians really needed to know the truth. And so they set up Malaysia Kini with the intentions of providing the public with news and views that would help them make more informed decisions. So it was a risk, and I think if you ask them now, they would say that it's worthwhile. In 2002, I think Prem was the one who initiated that they launched Malaysia Kini subscription, and this was 18 years ago. No one ever thought about selling content. And after 1 year, they managed to have 1,000 subscribers. In 2003, they launched the Bahasa site, and this site remains free until today. In 2005, they launched the Chinese site, and Chinese went into subscription. So in the last 20 years, we've changed our pricing 4 times. So the first time the price increase happened in 2004, and we started at 100 ringgit and incrementally increased it, and today we are at 200 ringgit a year, which amounts to something like $50 a year for subscription. So here I show our first website. This is how Malaysia Kini looked like 20 years ago. And as you can see, design was not survival was a priority, design was not. But anyway, a lot of people found reading in this capacity very useful. I was just wondering today, design thinking and UX people, what were they doing, 20 years ago? And today, this is our website where we pay a lot of attention to user experience. And so it's far more user-friendly to experience Malaysia Kini on, on both the website and on mobile. In 2014, we had our Buy a Brick campaign. So we were being kicked out of our premise quite a bit. The premise owners were being threatened by the government, and so we decided that we needed to purchase our own building, for peace of mind, if not anything else. Otherwise, we will keep needing to go to Burger Kings and working out of those kind of joints, right? So this campaign was when I first experienced the Malaysia Kini readers firsthand. Malaysia Kini had an incredibly loyal following, people who followed us for very many years, and they knew Prim and Stephen quite intimately, and it was very, very surprising, and how they came to the office a lot to share their stories. So over a couple of months, I think almost a year, we managed to raise 1.7 million. So if you come to the office today, you will see all these bricks with their names on it. And following that, 4 years later, we had a lawsuit, and we managed to raise again 350,000 ringgit from the public. And once again, we found that we had a very, very strong, loyal following. A little bit about Malaysia Kini and how it operates, right? Transparency is key. So if you come to the office building, you'll find that it's really easy access, right? You can come in from behind, you can come in from in front. There's not a lot of security, and people from big companies, when they come to office, they get a real culture shock. It's like, hey, anybody can rob you guys. Right? It's like, and all our meeting rooms are really transparent. You can see through, and you can see who's working. And actually, the third picture that you look at on your right hand side is the meeting room that's in the editorial floor, and Stephen insisted, actually the entire glass, the front glass we had a sort of like a sticker kind of thing, and Stephen insisted that we cut off the bottom part and the top part so that we can see through the, just to honor what we stand for. So all these years we had subscription was there, and it was a basic function of us providing content. It wasn't very sophisticated. The systems that we had were very basic and very simple. There was not much data we could collect from it, and it was built in-house, right? So the relationship was very, the readers gave us their money and they gave us their loyalty, and we gave them content, right? So in a relationship like this, we found that since revenue from membership subscription was about 20 to 30%. And during the elections, it was skyrocketed, and then after that, there was a fall. And the pattern repeated itself over and over again, right? So as the years went by, we're seeing advertising being hit quite bad. We had to question whether we wanted to invest seriously in subscription. That means have, a real solid strategy surrounding it. Do we really want to put the readers at the center of all our decision making? We had to think deeply whether we want revenue from subscription to be at least 50% of our total revenue, and we had to go into a big discussion for this. So we discussed and we discussed, and we had a big soul searching whether we wanted to go into membership. And the final decision was that the team was not entirely convinced that it's going to work, right? So the situation is this. We are not entirely sure whether people wanted to be part of Malaysia Kini. Because there were fractions in society. Some people really liked us and they were big fan of us, right? Some people, they if we existed or don't, it didn't make much of a difference. And then there was a fraction where they preferred if we did not exist. So we decided to move slowly. And therefore, we came to the decision of having a hybrid concept. So it is subscription with a choice to be a member. And we wanted people to choose whether they would be members of members to certain parts of Malaysia Kini or not. We didn't want to force the decision on them. We allowed people to make this decision on their own. So one of the first thing we did is we developed a membership team, and this we started in November. So I run this team. We work on branding, marketing, partnership, research, analysis, and customer service. So we are trying to put everything under one umbrella and get everybody moving in a single direction. But as you will see when I tell this story a little bit more, is us alone working on this is not going to be highly effective at all. So now, today, we have everybody from across the board working on membership. We have those from editorial, from product, from tech. Stephen and Prem are heavily involved in the whole process. We have people brainstorming in many different parts of Malaysia Kini on how to drive membership, right? So we've never seen such a movement within the organization before, but it's beginning to happen, and we will see the results and how it turns out maybe in a year's time. So one of the greatest payoffs that has happened so far has been the building of Newslight. Newslight is our internal subscription manager, and we wanted to build something on our own because one, we needed to customize it, and I think it is much cheaper to build it on our own than to purchase something from elsewhere. And this system is far more sophisticated than the system we had previously, because now it manages the users, it tells us about the revenue. There's quite extensive reporting. We can release newsletters from the system, so it's an all-in-one package. And if you're interested in knowing a little bit more about Newslight, you can write to Prem. So what do we offer our members today? We have now something called Kini Community. And you opt in into Kini Community, and you can do quite a number of things like bookmark and follow other commenters, and you can bid for stories, and there's a points sort of system. They onboarded this a little bit slowly, but I think right now we are driving it by trying to bring on board more youths to join the community. And so we are having a few programs for this. Then we launched the newsletter, and right now in February, and right now we have about 12,000 members on it. And we also invite them for events. There's a host of other things that we do for members, but I did not put it in today's slides. So in March 2020, what happened was COVID strikes, right? And Malaysia goes into lockdown. Subscription was increasing, but somehow we knew that it wouldn't sustain. And our paywall was around 50% around there. And during this time, we gave the COVID articles for free, but we strengthened the paywall to about 90%. So of course, subscription went up quite a bit. We also had some political upheaval during that time, but we knew that it wouldn't last. So how to sustain this was the question, right? So this is me. In May 2020, we're experiencing some sort of, crisis, because, we had done everything that we possibly can from the standpoint of a membership department, doing branding, marketing, selling the mission, doing all kinds of things, building new slide, doing, having group subscription, corporate subscription. We did everything. And yet I knew that we were hitting a brick wall, because we just didn't know what to do, anymore to help the situation. So then our friends came along to help us out. So right now, Malaysia Kini is going through some very rigorous training. MDIF provided us with 2 expert coaches. One to help us with subscription, and that is Greg Pekota from Poland, and he's really, really excellent. So Stephen Prem, myself, and a few others join him every Thursday, and we really, he audited the website, and he started going to the details about, all the improvements that we need to make. And, it's kind of back-breaking, but it's totally worth it, because now we see things moving. Now we know what we didn't know previously, and now we know what we need to do in order to take things further and take things forward. And then Facebook came along and enlisted us into the accelerator program. And just last week, we got the Google Subscription Lab program as well. So there's 4 programs going on in the organization simultaneously. And yeah, we are learning at a rate that is, and doing our day-to-day as well. So I can't imagine what my colleagues are going through, but we will see what happens after this. So where are we at today? So we're still learning. Then we realized that despite the fact that we started subscription in 2002, it almost feels like we know nothing. So we're still learning. The result so far is that we have seen an increase of revenue from subscription increase in the last 1 year from 25% to 46%. We've managed to slow down the churn rate. Look for ways to stop people from just leaving us after a month or so. And in 2019, we've increased the subscriber numbers by 25%. We are building more sophisticated funnel and data collection system. This is the results of everything that we're learning so far. So what have we learned? So we found that if you really would be interested in going to membership, the readers need to be top priority. We have to find a mechanism to listen to them. And this mechanism need to be built into the membership program. We also need to evaluate the resources that we have, and dedicate those resources, to really focus and concentrate on building, because it is an entire universe. There is a whole lot of things to do, and if you don't have a dedicated team or people working moving in the same direction, then the likelihood of it being an extremely burdensome experience is there. We need to focus on retention, so we always focus on acquisition, getting in new subscribers, but and then we hold them back. We forget about in the relationship in between, making them feel like they are part of the group, making them form a habit about reading your news, those kind of things. And in membership, you have to try and fail many times before there is some sustained market penetration, right? And finally, there needs to be continuous product and business innovation. So editorial and operations working together really is no longer a choice. So these are lessons that we've learned. Membership requires across the board collaboration. That's a huge thing. We have to continuously listen and engage with our readers. Data collection is key in measuring growth. Seamless payment system is somebody needs to really audit the system, use the system, and tell us what is wrong with it, and reduce, from a 6 to 7 step system to a 3-step system, and you will see a lot of difference in people choosing to pay for subscription. And finally, striving for a holistic development of user experience. And yes, that is it. That's the journey that we've had so far. Any questions?
That's great. In fact, we've got a whole bunch of really great questions out there. But you know what? Why don't we go to Deborah first, and then we'll quick come back to this later, okay? Because I think there are going to be some common themes that go across. So let's go to Deborah. Deborah, do you want to turn your camera on if it's not already? I don't see you there. And Lynn, you'll have to stop presenting.
Okay.
Yep. There you go.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, I'm just turn on present.
Nice work, Lynn. A lot of good questions out
Yeah,
there. You'll see them in the chat box. A whole bunch of them. Perfect. It's coming up.
Okay, great.
Thank you. All yours, Deborah.
All right, great. So initially when Alan invited me to this, I said, I don't know if I'm the right person because I've only recently really started to figure out my job. And he said, well, that's okay because this job didn't really exist until 3 years ago. So I've been at New Narrative since November 2018. So I've had it for almost as long as you can have this job, or this job became important. So yeah, I mean, I started out kind of asking, what am I even doing? My background is creative writing. I have a master's in creative writing. And so I'm not a journalist and I don't have a marketing background. So, and the initial reason that I think PJ was interested in hiring me was because I had a lot of connections to civil society in Malaysia. And New Narrative is a little bit different from Malaysia Kini or other media startups because we are not just a media organization, we're also a movement for democracy. So we both do media and we do advocacy, right? So initially, the only clear things that I knew I had to do was a weekly newsletter and monthly events. So one event a month in Kuala Lumpur and one newsletter a week that went out to our members. At the time when I started, our editor-in-chief at the time, Kirsten, also had a newsletter, and that went out to a subscriber list of people who are not members, but still were interested in what we were doing. So that's what I started out with. So obviously the goals of a membership engagement manager are to maintain membership and expand membership. So I sort of knew what to do in terms of maintaining membership. But really, when it came to expanding membership, I was kind of clueless. I really didn't have a good idea. I knew that we needed to expand our outreach and have better marketing. And at the time when I first joined, we didn't have a marketing person. So it was kind of down to me to both do membership and think of marketing ideas as well. Yeah, and so it comes down, I think, to what we did and didn't know about membership, right? And I think for us, there were a lot of things we didn't know. So we knew that membership hinged on some kind of exclusivity because because we are a movement for democracy, one of our core values is freedom of information. So we actually give away all our content for free on social media. We have, if you go to our Twitter or Facebook, you're able to access everything we publish for free. So then why would you become a member, right? So it then comes down to what you need to be giving people who are members that you don't get if you're just a social media follower. So that was the thing that we were kind of trying to figure out. What is exclusive enough to make people want to join as members? But so this was the problem that we faced. We really didn't know our membership. And the reason we didn't know our membership is because we weren't doing the right things really to get to know our membership, one. Two, we have a very strict privacy policy. So we don't use Google Analytics, for example, to analyze our site. And Google Analytics, if you use it, you get a lot of information about the people visiting your site. But because of privacy concerns, we use Matomo, which is a different analytics collecting tool, and it's more limited than Google Analytics. This is the same slide. Sorry. Okay, so we knew we needed to do audience research. And if you were following what we were doing during our fundraising drive, one of the things we earmarked that we wanted to do was audience research, because we knew we really needed to get to know our membership better. So initially, I would say that on and off, we would survey members from time to time. We would drop a survey question into the newsletter, or I would put together a Google form for people to fill out. And we would get some feedback that way, right? But I think we just didn't know what to do with that information. And the only consistent thing I can say that emerged that we sort of knew as well from interacting with people who were members is that people really supported our values, right? They supported this idea of spreading democracy in Southeast Asia. They supported that we are very transparent, just like Malaysia Kini. You can see all our financial statements online. When we fundraise, we're very clear about what we're fundraising, what goes to staff salaries, what's going to fund stories. So we knew that, and then when we surveyed people, we knew that was something that they cared about. But then how do you make that something actionable, right? So that was the piece we were missing. So when we fundraised, we hired an audience research consultant, and so he's come on board with us. So the first thing he did was to analyze the statistics of our website. So he looked at, what's the average number of views we get on a day? What does a spike, something unusual look like? What are the pieces that are doing well, from last year? So things that we published before that we aren't even promoting on social media now, but are still getting hits. So that was the first step. The second step was to analyze the people who are actually engaging with our content. So he broke it down into 3 cohorts. Members, so obviously people who already subscribed, and then people who donated to us during our fundraising drive but are not members, and then thirdly, our email subscribers who are not members. So what we did was we set up video calls with all 3 cohorts, and I did these surveys with them and talked to them about a few things. So what emerged, what we were asking first of all is when you do a survey like this, you want to know what you could be doing better. So that's always the first question in these surveys. What would you improve or change about new narrative, right? Then you go to what do you like about new narratives? And then what would you like to see from us, and so on. And I think an interesting thing that emerged from this was also, again, people really, they supported us because of our values. That was a key thing that led people to subscribe and become members, or to engage with our content in the first place. Another interesting thing that came out of these surveys was that how people had actually found out about us. So that's, I think, a really good question maybe that people can ask their readership or their members. How did you find out about New Narrative or Malaysia Kini, whatever it is? And in Singapore, it skews very heavily towards people knowing about PJ, our managing director and one of our founders, and or they followed Kirsten, our former editor-in-chief and also one of our founders. So people were either already following their work, or if you know PJ, you know that he was interrogated by the Minister of Law in Singapore. And so a lot of people found out about us through that. So that's useful to know because there's a limit to how many people we can reach through a personality like PJ, right? So we know that, okay, great. A lot of people have followed us and found out about us because of one personality, but you don't want to hinge your whole publication, the whole organization on just one person's popularity, because there'll always be a cap. And outside of Singapore, PJ isn't as well known. And people may not care that, you know, the Singaporean state has gone after him. So that was, I think, a very useful thing for us to know. And then another interesting question that we posed to them was, what do you think could attract more people to becoming members? So it's a little bit of a psychological question, because in telling you what they think would attract more people to join, they're telling you what would have made them join or what would attract them to become a member, right? So sometimes we don't get great answers, but we've had a few actually quite good answers and strategies from just chatting with people. And then once we've done these video surveys with people, we then send out a self-completing survey. So we take some of the answers and options from that video survey and we build them into a survey that you can fill out yourself, and we send that out to a wider audience, right? So basically from that, our audience research consultant is going to give us feedback on what we could be changing, what we could be doing. So, you know, for me, it was really important to be working with this consultant so that I can now do this on my own without him, because we really didn't have the sort of the guidelines on how to do something like this. So what I've learned so far on this journey is, you know, obviously the most important thing is that members join because of our values. And one of the things that I think we're going to do going forward is to really spotlight our values on the website, because, and this is an ongoing thing, we're trying to like redesign the website. It's a lot of people complain about how it's not the easiest website to navigate. I agree, we know. And we're working with our web developers to change that. But yeah, so right now, I think it's not that easy to find out what exactly our values are. People keep saying that they subscribe because of that. But if that's the reason, then we should make it much easier to find out what our values are. And the second thing I've learned is the importance of newsletters. So I have, like Malaysia Kini, been very lucky to get some guidance from MDIF. And I've been taking these reader revenue strategy classes. So from that, the first class I attended, we learned about how important newsletters are in media right now. So even the big guys like the New York Times and the Washington Post are having to do newsletters. And, you know, the Washington Post, when they first put up a paywall, they had a low uptake of their membership. But once they started doing newsletters, they had a huge spike in people subscribing. And it's because they pivoted to newsletters, and they have something like 60 newsletter products. And obviously, we don't have the capacity to do that. We've just relaunched a second newsletter, and that is already quite a lot of effort for us. We're a small team of like 13 people. But newsletters are really important because it's an intimate way of communicating with your readers. You know, you get it right in your inbox. And as Lynn was saying in her presentation, it's a habit-forming product, right? Once people get used to looking at the newsletter every week, you know, they form some kind of relationship with you, with your brand. And it's also a good way to kind of beat the social media algorithm. So, you know, our social media has been a struggle. We have a very big following on Twitter, on Facebook, but on Twitter especially, which is, I think, the more important social media platform for journalists and media, we have not very high engagement. right? And that's for a variety of reasons, but one of them is just like, it is difficult to work against the algorithm. Sometimes you just, that's kind of out of your control. So having a newsletter is a way to directly get your media into the hands of your readers, right? You don't have to contend with the algorithm. It's also potentially a way to circumvent censorship, because in Singapore, we're de facto banned, basically, and we are preparing ourselves for the fact that our website may be totally banned in the future in Singapore. So newsletters would be, I think, one way for us to circumvent that, because you can't block email, right? So, I mean, the Singapore government, I don't think, can block Gmail, or whatever email service provider. So that would be one way as well of us getting our content to our subscribers in, say, Singapore, directly through email. And so it's basically, that was one of the most important things I've learned, that we need to have a newsletter. And if you are subscribed, I think Alan and Rashada both subscribed to my newsletter. You'll see, if you followed my journey from 2018 to now, that the tone of my newsletters has really changed. I think in the beginning, I felt this kind of necessity to be professional, quote unquote. And so I tried to be a bit more formal in my newsletters. But as time went down, I felt like I needed to be myself. And so I'm a lot more casual in the newsletter. I use it as a way to get the readers to know the members of our team. So, it's more intimate again. And this is where the exclusivity comes for. So in creating a new newsletter that's just for subscribers who are not members, I do want to differentiate the content, where the membership newsletter does have extras like getting to know the team, a behind the scenes look at how we put together a certain story. For example, we recently published our first comic in Burmese, and that was quite a big deal. And so I had a little interview with our comics and illustrations editor, Carrie Slope. So I asked her, like, what went into getting this story, were there technical difficulties in putting together a language in a non-Romanized script? And so she gave me, some short answers to those questions, and I put it in the newsletter. And so that's something that we don't share on social media, and something only our members would have gotten. So yeah, that's how I sort of maintain the exclusivity and the exclusive experience of being a member, while also still making sure that everybody has access to our content. And the last thing I've learned is acting on audience feedback. So if people are telling you, we appreciate your values, that's why we've subscribed, you need to make your values easy to find. If people are saying, the website's really difficult to navigate, then you need to just redesign your website. And then when it came to the newsletter, I was hearing in my video interviews, one or two people were like, why doesn't New Narrative have a briefing newsletter? Something that's just really the content front and center. And so that's why we decided, we need to relaunch a newsletter that is for everybody, but you don't need a membership to access. And so that's why we've launched a new newsletter. And lots of things will come out if you survey people, if you take the time to try and do video interviews. And it's really important that you then act on that audience feedback. So if you're interested, you can subscribe to our new newsletter, and this is the bit.ly link. And and it goes out every Tuesday morning, I believe. So yeah, I'm happy to take questions now.
Very cool. Deborah, thank you so much. I love that you said you believe it goes out every Tuesday.
It does.
You don't know how stressful
yeah.
I was just saying to these guys how stressful Tuesdays are for me and Thursdays are for Alan, because you're doing newsletters, I wanted to just circle back with both of you, Lynn and Deborah. And I realize what you're saying here is that is that you bring your voice, your personality, your values, and your experience to the work that you do with audiences, whether it's memberships or not. You bring all of this stuff because I guess what we've discovered now is that memberships are very personal. As you were saying, Deborah, I mean, you made that switch from sounding all newslettery and sounding like a company to then realizing that companies don't have voices and that you yourself are the voice. You are, in fact, the personality that people relate to. So do you guys, Lynn and Deborah, I mean, was there a point in which you guys decided, you said, this is what I want to do. This is what's important to me. I want to work with audiences. This is a thing that I could do. For example, Lynn, let me start with you. Where did you come to this from in your personal career, in your personal life?
Well, if you're talking about building relationships and building communities, right? You can't do that from a standpoint of being purely transactional and branded, right? Nobody feels anything then, right? So we use our newsletter to expose a little bit the culture and the people within the organization, make personalize it, and we're still experimenting with how this will work. But we find that people tend to respond better when they feel like you are human and you're not just this political activist news spotter sort of brand. Yeah.
What about you, Deborah? At what point did you decide that membership engagement, that this was something you wanted to do?
I think I see my role as an extension of my own advocacy and activism work, because through New Narrative, because like I said, we're not just a media organization, we also do advocacy. So I can organize events for members that are advocacy related, right? And we are trying to move more in that direction, where we have, say, like an example is an event I did last year about the haze, where we had published some stories about the haze in Southeast Asia, and then we had an event in KL where we raised money to donate to an Indonesian organization working on the haze. So for me, I think, it is getting to interact with people, and it is getting to show people how, in small ways they can make a difference.
Let me jump in here with a question from Mariam Chaudhry, who's actually our speaker for later today. She's saying, Lynn, such an inspiring woman. How difficult was it to set up your membership model for you personally? Do you ever get frustrated with it? Oh, you might be on mute. Lynn, you're on mute. Lynn, sorry, you're on mute.
Yeah, I was just saying that anything worthwhile is going to be difficult. I think we all know that, right? Anybody has started anything on their own, anybody who's like ventured into areas that is outside of their comfort zone is going to face a lot of difficulties. But I think if anybody decides to go into membership, then they need to be prepared to face difficulty for long periods of time until membership has evolved to a certain degree, and the community understands the psychology of it. Then at some point there is some form of breakthrough, and then I hope it gets easier. We're not there yet. Yeah.
Guys, I'm going to ask, we're going to go in and represent all your questions. I realize we're 5 minutes out from the end of this, but this is really exciting, at least for us. So if you don't mind staying a little bit past the close, we'll get to all of your questions. So I'm going to be really quick. Prue Clark, who has already left, she had a thing, asks, did you have trouble, Lynn, finding staff who get it?
Sorry, again?
Prue Clark was asking if you had any trouble finding staff who actually get it, who were able to shift to that membership mindset, I imagine.
Well, the membership team is very young. They're all millennials, right? So very easy to handle. Just instruct them what to think and then they're fine. The more senior members of the organizations, right? It took a long time for, I mean, we are still in the midst of a psychological shift. I mean, you're going from data-driven decision-making, clickbaits, advertising, to your reader-centric decision-making. It requires an entire organization to shift their mindset. So we got to be patient with this process actually, and it's quite exhilarating to watch.
We've got two questions here, kind of related, and I guess this is for Deborah. Chitra and Hui are asking, basically, why do you decide to do your surveys on video? How is that a useful format for reaching out, I guess?
I mean, there are two different types of surveys I do. The initial one are video interviews because, they're a more involved, longer survey that if you were to give it out to people to complete themselves, they would probably not complete the survey. It would just be like too much work. So, the initial round of surveying is done via videos. And then from the answers in those video surveys, then you can build a survey that allows you to complete on your own. So the first surveys are sort of to get the options basically for questions that we ask. For example, like say the question is, what's the way that you consume new narrative news, right? So is it through the website? Is it through social media? And so by talking to people first over video, you then get options that you can add to the survey that people can check off on their own. So that's why we do an initial video survey, because if we were to do that straight away for people to complete themselves, they probably wouldn't complete the whole thing, or you would get very few responses.
I have a question from Pooja Pandey from Khabar Laharia in India. I actually like this one. It's what are your recommended ways to initiate feedback from members? Either of you could take that question. Lynn, go for it. Deborah, go for it.
I think we do an annual survey, and we allow them to, we give them the space to be brutal with their feedback. And we need to take it on board. It's not easy to swallow. And if you look at the Malaysia Kini website, right, you will find, we have a commenting system and people actually give us feedback there. So editorial is kind of like, continuously exposed to what people think about their reporting. And then we have a feedback button at the bottom of articles where we ask them about a certain, the quality of reporting, how they understood it, what can we do better for this type of reporting. And so there are feedback mechanisms that's integrated into our portal for this to happen continuously. So it works for us.
I find that as soon as people need to click away to something, then you have less people responding. So for example, when I put in through MailChimp, you can just have very simple survey questions that are 2 options or 3 options, and people can click within the newsletter, yes, no, whatever it is. And I got quite a high response rate when I did that, when I recently asked, do you want a briefing email newsletter, yes or no? Whereas when I sent out a survey about what would you like for Malaysian elections coverage, which was a longer survey that they had to click on, 1, we don't have a huge membership in Malaysia, but 2, I think just the fact that you have to click out of the newsletter to go and fill out a survey then means that your response rate drops.
There's a question here from Jean-Pierre to Deborah. Have you ever thought of doing a video newsletter with cuts and stories from your podcast or from PJ's show?
Wow, no, we had never thought of that. And actually, I think that would be a membership. That would be definitely a market for that because people love PJ. My I don't know if I should be saying this in public, but my managing operator and I would call PJ fans thumb chums. And they seriously, like, people in Singapore really love PJ, and so yeah, I think that would be a real market for just PJ's videos.
Pooja Pandey, you wanted to add to your question. Listen.
Oh yeah, thanks.
Unmute yourself and speak forth.
Yeah, hi everyone. Great session. Thank you, Lynn, Deborah. Actually, my question was also a bit, thank you for the answers, but you know what you rightly said about them becoming habits and how newsletters should good newsletters become habits, but then like all habits, they kind of become, like the engagement with it is a little bit like, oh, you expect the newsletter, it comes in and then you read it, and then, how do you kind of initiate this thing for people to actually hit reply or to actually write? Maybe Alice, Rishad, you guys could also like jump in, because I know that you guys also always put that in, and like, do you get a lot of replies? And so yeah, thank you for taking the additional question.
Yeah, no, definitely not about us. We're learning from Lynn and Deborah here, so all yours, guys, not guys.
Oh, we make it a point to answer, all our readers. People do write into Nifty Notes, sometimes they are writing, during the pandemic, when we were in lockdown, people used to write to us about their problems and, that they were feeling depressed and all that, and then we would reply them. And until today, they would send in requests. Like today's Nifty Notes was in bilingual. We use Malay and English at the same time, and somebody asked for a translation of the Malay language. So at the moment we have 12,000 members, and it's about an average of 20 to 25 emails, which I can handle. It's no problem. But I really do wonder if you're like having 50,000 or 100,000 people, and then you have 200 emails a day. How would we manage that? But I think there is a value when people feel heard, they feel connected, and sometimes the same people write in again and again, for feedback and those kind of things. So we do reply. Yeah.
I try to ask questions. I mean, I try to make it as interactive as possible. I mean, yes, you might not get a high reply rate, but I think actually address it, saying like, I often say hit reply to this just to tell me what you think, or asking a question. Yeah, so I think inserting something so that it's not just like a one-way communication is yeah, definitely something I try to do with my newsletters.
Okay, so one of the benefits of being the organizer is that I get to ask the final question here. So to both of you, you obviously have to hire people at some point, or you are. What is the one thing that you want to impart on them when it comes to memberships? What is the one single skill, experience, mindset that they need to have to join your team?
I think it's being personable. I think you're building relationships with people. It's not. I think you can't think of. I think when you are a membership versus a subscription model, because and Lynn made that distinction that Malaysia Kini went from a subscription to a membership model, and we are a membership model at New Narrative. And with membership, you are trying to build a community, a sense of community. And with New Narrative, we are a movement for democracy, right? So, and we say join the movement when you sign up for a New Narrative membership. So I think you have to understand that like you have to be, yeah, like the kind of person that people want to build a relationship with. I think to me, I think that is the biggest thing, right? Like you can't be someone who hates emailing people back and or whatever it is, right? Like you and I'm like very kind of chipper in my newsletters, and that's partly a part of the job. Yeah. So yeah, that would be my answer.
Well, you're also very personal, Deborah, as you said. I mean, I love that there's this, there's this sort of chat, it's open-ended, sometimes you're wondering about your what you said earlier in your life, and there's a sort of you can see your personality come through. I feel like I know you, I've never met you, and that's what I love about those newsletters. It's a big deal. And it's hard to find that voice. In fact, if there's, in closing, I'd like, if there's a call to action that I'd like to pop in here, guys, be members. Sign up for the membership program at New Narrative and at Malaysia Kini. Malaysia Kini, we look at Prem, and we look at Lynn, and we love Sean. We had Sean from there from the Malaysia Kini team. These are the membership programs worth signing for. This is media worth supporting. Put your money down for these folks. Thank you so much for both of you. I want to quickly cue that at 7 p.m. today, Singapore time, we have the incredible Mariam Chaudhry talking about The Current, the media startup that she started up in Pakistan.
Yep, so that comes on in 2 hours from now. We would love to see you all there. We also have plenty of respect for Mariam. This is really exciting. So come back for that. It happens in 2 hours from now. Thank you again to everyone who's here for all the great comments that are out there. Leave your names, email addresses if you want to get in touch with people, get to know each other. This is, after all, a small community that we all love. Thank you again to our sponsors, Facebook Journalism Project, Konrad Adenauer Stiftung, Google, Luminate, MBIF, IMS, FOIO, and AFP. We'll see you guys later.
Bye.
That's right. Don't say guys.
I'll see you later. Saying guys, is that rude?